Good evening, everyone. I am so glad to be back with you this week. My name is Don Daniel. I'm founder of Pill Method International and the creator of Money Answers All Things. We're going to be bridging faith and finance through stewardship. How about that? Well, why don't we get started right away? Because I promised you a lot of fireworks last week. I promise you there's going to be some good information this week. Now, I geek out on it. There's going to be some reading. I've got an article for you, but we're going to be telling the history of how all of this mortgage business got started. And it's very interesting. And we're going to give you some of the background. But first, why don't we start with a word of prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so very much for yet another opportunity for you to grow our knowledge about finances and about faith. We thank you for this opportunity in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, folks. See, last week we talked about how it is in the enemy's plan, in Satan's plan, that we do not understand money, that we are not supposed to even have money. He says, even if we can just keep the money in our ranks, he says, then these Christians will not be able to take from us our subjects, meaning those who are under the power of the enemy. So we need to understand finances, if for no other reason, from that standpoint, because God is in charge of the resources. And who do you think in all of the world, I'm just going to let you guess, who do you think in all the world does God want to be in charge of the resources he has here on earth? In fact, next week, oh my goodness, you don't want to miss next week when we talk about finances in the spirit of prophecy and in the Bible, and talking about wealth creation in the Bible and spirit of prophecy. Oh my goodness. You don't. Oh, thank you, Trish. Trish T says his people, wanting his people to manage the finances. So next week, oh my goodness, you want to tell everybody, come back next week where we're going to show from the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, the truth about wealth creation and where all of that lies in circumspect to how God wants us to understand it. How does God want us to understand wealth? How does he want us to understand the resources, the vast resources that he has given this planet? And who is in charge of managing it? And what happens when you manage it correctly? Oh my goodness. We want to be there next week, don't we? All right. So listen, let's tell everybody. Let me get on here. I want to make sure that I can see everything going on here live as well on my iPad here. Okay, there we go. All right. So let's see here. Okay, folks, what we're going to do now is I want to say hi. I want to say hi to everyone who is watching us online. I'd like to have a good idea of how many people are here so that we can kind of grow this event through you sharing it with others. So let's do a quick overview of what is important here that we want to get out today. All right. So last week, we talked about some of the basics of how mortgages work. We talked about the basics of how loans work and how much interest we are paying, about 75% more interest than we need to pay. And why is that important? Because if we're busy spending more money than we need to on interest just to buy homes, cars, pay for education, if we're spending a ton of money on interest, how in the world can we set aside money for our children's children? How can we grow our finances to the point where we can give to the upbuilding of God's kingdom if so much money is being spent other ways just to live? Well, I'm telling you today, it is possible for you to live well and have plenty of money in the bank and pay off all of your debt in an average of 7 to 9 years and have more money to invest in the kingdom. I'm telling you, it is possible to do it all if we understand the rules of money. So we're going to be getting into more of that before too long. But just to recap, I want to show you something about 30-year mortgages, and then we're going to talk about where this all came from. So we're going to put that on the screen. There it is. And I'm going to, guess what I found out? In 2 weeks, next week, here's some of the subjects for next week. We're going to be talking about sinking funds. Oh no, that's in 3 weeks. Oh my goodness. In 3 weeks, I forgot. I was going to talk to you about what's going to happen over the next 2 weeks. Wealth creation from the Bible and spirit of prophecy next week. And the week after, we're going to be talking about all the things that we're being taught about how to manage finances from the gurus, from the financial experts. Yeah, that we shouldn't be doing. Have you heard of sinking funds? How about debt consolidation? How about the debt snowball or the avalanche methods? What should we be, how should we view and use emergency funds? Oh my goodness. Credit cards and debit cards. That is in 2 weeks. Okay. So next week, wealth creation, and the week after that, everything that we're being taught right now on what to do with our finances, we're going to find out that we shouldn't be doing those things at all. We should be doing something different that's actually benefiting the family when it comes to finances. Oh my goodness, that's going to be a great opportunity for us to get together too. Oh yeah, Tish says some exciting stuff. Some exciting stuff, she says. All right, folks, let me show you something because something just happened. Is it possible? Let me see here. I am not. There we go. That's what we need. I need it a little bigger. Okay. Yeah. So let me show you here what we have. We have a the average home price right now, $420,000. That's the average home price. Okay. If you're buying a home, it's the median home price across the country. Guess what we found out just recently? If you're watching the financial news, interest rates went to a whopping 8%. Look at this. Okay. And here's what we're being taught. With this interest rate, look at this payment is $3,081.81. Here's what I want everybody to know. If you can afford it, it's okay, because we don't have to pay interest like the bank tells us to. I want to show you what's happening here with this loan. Okay. And I'm going to break down some things that you probably didn't know, but it's going to lead right into the history of mortgages. All right. So this payment again is $3,081.81. Look how much is going to principal and look how much is going to interest. Here's what I need to tell you right now. I need you to write this down and listen very closely. I'm going to be talking about the fact today that if your mortgage comes from like Chase or Bank of America or Regions or your credit union or wherever it comes from, if you have a mortgage today, the bank in which you established the mortgage no longer has that mortgage. It has been sold on the secondary market. It has been sold on the secondary market. And that is what's happening now. And this is what was set up years ago. And I'm going to show you, and I'm even giving you the article from the University of Pennsylvania that's going to be the center of our study today. Okay. So here's what's happening. There is not a separate account where the principal goes when you make your mortgage payment. The principal is the amount that you borrowed. The principal is used to pay down the loan itself. And the interest is the cost of borrowing the money. There is no separate account where the principal goes and the interest goes. When the real estate investor buys your mortgage, when you make a mortgage payment, all of the principal and interest goes to the one who owns the mortgage now. All $3,081.81 goes to that investor. I mean, if you stop and think about it, that's exactly what happens. Okay? The bank or the investor receives all of the money. So, Don, what happened? What are you talking about then? What happens with this interest side and the principal side? What happens? That's just a math problem. You see, the way that the amortization schedule is configured, then you get a credit. Watch this. If this is your mortgage, you get a credit of $281.81 out of your payment. And the $2,800 in interest is credited to the interest side. And because this is credited to the principal side, now instead of $420,000, you owe $419,718.19, and then then we do another transaction to figure out how much interest you owe on this amount. Okay, and because look at this, the difference, the rate of change here from 281.81 to 283.69, very slight, very slight. And because of that, do you know what that means? It actually means that because of this, because of the principal payment, then the owner of that mortgage says, oh, now they have to pay me 360 times, 360 months. I get this payment because this principal payment is so small. By the time we get to the end, I need you to show you here. I need to show you, watch this. It's going down here. Now we get a little more principal, a little less interest, a little more principal, a little less interest. Let's scroll down, up, a little more principal, a little less interest, a little more principal, a little less interest, until we get all the way down to the very end where we have most of it going to principal and just a little bit left going to interest, for a total of $420,000 paid back. Okay. All right. But look at this. Look at this. This is cumulative principal, but on the interest side, $689,453.62. That's what happens. This is what the real estate investors are looking for. And that is going to be the backdrop of our story today. If you have any questions, be sure to put them in the chat and we will be able to discuss them. All right, so let's get going here. Let's get going. I want to put this oh man, where's oh, this is good. This is good. This is good. So there it is. Let's bring this up. I'm going to bring this over to here. Boom, there it is. Now, we're going to put this the link to this in the chat. You can have this, okay? It's the American Mortgage in Historical and International Context. All right? This is very important stuff. We're going to go through it step by step so you can understand what happened and how we got here. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Here's the first part I want you to see. Mortgage debt was 15% of of household assets in 1949, but it rose to 28% of households by 1979, and by 41% of household assets by 2001. This enormous growth in American home mortgages, as shown in figure 1, here it is. Look at this. Look at this growth. Okay? It is huge. This is something that's happening here, and I need you to understand what is going on here. Okay? As a percentage of GDP, GDP has been accompanied by transformation in their form, such as that American mortgages are now distinctively different. American mortgages are now distinctively different from mortgages in the rest of the world. In addition, the growth in mortgage debt outstanding in the United States has closely tracked the mortgage market's increased reliance. Okay, watch this. Watch this. Increased reliance on securitization, meaning these mortgages are used in securitization or mortgage-backed securities. Your mortgage is now part of an investment strategy. Your mortgage, my mortgage, everybody's mortgage is part of an investment strategy. They're being securitized. Now, why is that important? Let's start back at the beginning. All right, here's the historical context. Before the Great Depression, the single-family home mortgage was a very different instrument until the 1930s. Residential mortgages in the United States were available only for short term. 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Okay? And what do you mean? There was only short terms? Yes, but they were amortized. No, I'm sorry, they were not amortized. These were interest-only loans. Watch this. Watch this. Okay. Until the 1930s, residential mortgages in the United States were available for only short terms, typically 5 to 10 years. Some were even shorter, like for 3 years, and featured bullet payments of principal at term, or what we call balloon payments at the end. Okay, so here is how it worked. Okay, when you read the rest of this, they would have to pay off the outstanding loan balance. In addition, most loans carried a variable interest, a rate of interest. And not only that, but most of them were interest-only payments. Yeah, no money was going to the principal. For 5 years, for 10 years, for 3 years, no matter what the term was, what was happening, that people were making their payments on interest alone, and and these balloon payments would come due every 5 to 10 years. So what would happen is the bank would reissue the loan, give them a new term. All right, you've been a good customer. Thank you very much. We're going to give you a new 5 or 10 year term, and you can continue paying interest only on this loan. Okay, now watch what happened. But during the Great Depression, in the early 1930s, property values in the United States declined by 50% relative to peak values. Holders of these mortgages, knowing their positions were insecure, refused to refinance loans that came due. I need you to understand what's happening here. Most people did not lose their homes in the Depression because they couldn't make the payments. They didn't lose their homes, their churches, their farms, their property because they couldn't make the payments. They lost their properties, their homes, their churches, their farms because at the end of the term, when the balloon payment came due, they could not make that huge payment and the bank would not refinance them. That's what happened. Okay? Watch this. So, where was I? I get so excited about this. Holders of these mortgages, knowing their positions were insecure, refused to refinance the loans that came due. As a result, borrowers defaulted, having neither the cash nor the home equity necessary to pay the loans back. Now, why was not having home equity important? Okay, because the property values fell, they didn't have the home equity. That means they couldn't sell the mortgage to somebody else. They didn't have enough equity in the property to sell it to somebody else to satisfy the old loan. They didn't have it because there was no money left in the property. Okay, so a wave of foreclosures resulted, typically, watch this, 250,000 per year between 1931 and 1935. At the worst of the Depression, nearly 10% of homes were in foreclosure. In response to these calamities, the federal government began intervening in the housing finance market. Okay? Now, this was around 1930, around 1936. What did they invent? It created three particularly important institutions: the Homeowners Loan Corporation, HOLC, the Federal Housing Administration, the FHA. That's when it was invented, 1936, as a result of the Great Depression, and the Federal National Mortgage Association, FNMA, which became Fannie Mae that we know today. This all got started back then. Okay? Now, watch what happens here. The Homeowners Loan Corporation raised funds using government-backed bonds, and then used the funds to purchase defaulted mortgages from financial institutions and then reinstated the mortgages to the people. That's what happened. They bought up the debt, raised the funds, bought the debt, and then reissued these loans to the people. Now, watch what happened. How did they reissue the loans? The HOLC changed the terms of the mortgages drastically, converting variable rate, short-term, non-amortizing mortgages into fixed rate, long-term, 20-year, fully amortizing mortgages. This is when amortizing mortgages got started in 1936, and these were the first 20-year mortgages. Now, let's find out why they did it. Okay. An amortizing mortgage is one where the principal is prepaid over the life of the loan so that the borrower does not face a large lump sum payment at the end of the loan. The HOLC ultimately purchased, reinstated, and converted 1 million mortgages. Oh boy. Okay. Now, what? Listen to this part here. I've got a different highlight on this one. Because the federal government did not see itself as being in the business of holding mortgages in the long term, the government is not in the mortgage business. All right. So it needed to find a way to make these mortgages marketable. In particular, investors in the mortgages wanted assurance. Okay, here's their insurance. Watch this. What did the investors want? Because listen, first of all, the government said, we need to get out of this business of mortgages. We need to get people who want to invest in these mortgages so that we can get paid back, the government can get paid back, and then the private companies would now own these mortgages. So the private companies wanted to know something. What did they want to know? Here's what they wanted to know. All right. In particular, the investors in the mortgages wanted assurance that they would receive the full principal balance. Of course, they want to get paid back. Of course, they want to get paid back. Listen, I bought the mortgage. I want to be paid back. That's only fair, correct? Oh, watch this. That's not the only thing they wanted. They wanted they would receive full principal balance and scheduled interest payments. Oh my goodness. They wanted the scheduled interest payments for the next 20 years. That's what they wanted. Larry McGill Jr. says, longer terms means more interest paid. You better believe that. You better believe it. All right. All right. Now, let's get a little bit deeper into this thing here. Okay. While some private mortgage insurance companies were in the business for this purpose before the 1930s, they were insufficiently capitalized and failed in the early 1930s. Consequently, the government established the FHA to provide mortgage insurance necessary for investors to purchase mortgages with confidence. Now, that isn't the best part of this, okay? That's when the FHA came into being, so that could have mortgage insurance, so that we can get the investors involved, so that they could buy back the loans from the government. All right. I need you to hear this part. Thus, the invention of the fixed rate self-amortizing long-term mortgage was above all else a response to a general financial crisis as opposed to a design for the promotion of home ownership per se. It wasn't for you and me. It was a response to the financial crisis. And we were thinking that they came up with this plan to make it easier to buy homes for us. Nuh-uh. Not at all. That's what, listen, I'm not done yet. FHA adopted this form of mortgage to avoid the problem of people needing to refinance, which had clearly led to disaster. The combination of HOLC and the FHA represented a piece of early financial engineering that allowed illiquid financial institutions to become liquid again. Financial institutions. Somebody's getting educated on how this money works. But how this whole thing works rested on whom? How the whole thing worked rested on whom? Who's doing the paying here? Who's doing the working and earning the money and doing the paying? Who's doing that? And who's getting the benefit of us working and doing the paying? Who's getting the benefit of that? We are doing that. We're like, okay, thank you, Lisa. She says the homeowners. The homeowners are doing the paying. Now, throughout this whole article, you'll be able to read the whole article because you can download it yourself. Here's what's not happening in this whole scenario. The homeowners aren't being educated as to how these loans actually work. That's not part of this. It was not part of the government's plan. In fact, if you're in government and you're in the know if you're in the government, okay? And there's a new business emerging. Here's a new business that's emerging. It's called the secondary mortgage market. The secondary mortgage market is emerging here. So they need the secondary mortgage market to purchase the loans from the government. And then it continued so that banks who issued mortgages continued to sell these mortgages to the secondary market, the secondary mortgage market, because these people invested in these mortgages. And what did they want to know? They wanted to know, is my investment secure? So what made them secure? The private mortgage insurance, or PMI. That's when PMI got started. Now, what made them attractive? Long-term interest payments. What made them secure? Mortgage insurance. What made them attractive? 20 years of interest payments. What made them even further attractive? The people who are buying these mortgages have no idea how they even work. Oh, mercy. Somebody says, how do I get the pill method started for my mortgage repayments? All right. So put 2 SLP. All right. Let's go ahead and put that on it. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm out of water. I did not bring water into my studio. Y'all are going to have to pray for a brother. I don't have a drink of water I just got so excited about getting started today. Okay, but let's take a quick break here. Let's put up ice10k.com. Let's go ahead and put that in the chat. ice10k.com. And we're going to, let me bring this down so I can show you what's going on here. So I'm going to bring this up on my screen as well. ice10k.com. All right. When you get there, all you have to do is scroll down past ET here. All right. ET, the hip hop preacher. He is the #1 motivational speaker in the entire world. All right. Who used the pill method to pay off his mortgage in record time. Let's scroll down to where it says get a savings and earnings report. Get a savings and earnings report. Click on that. And then just follow the instructions. Okay. Just follow the instructions. And what we'll be able to talk about is the technology that we're using to beat the banks at their own game. All right. So you can move the right amount of money in the right month on the right on the right day of the month to the right loan to maximize the amount of interest you can save. All right. So you can save the maximum amount of interest that's mathematically possible for you. You see, all of this that they're doing now is so the investors can make more money. So, and that is through the interest side of the ledger. But if we know what we're doing, then we could pay about 75 to 80% less interest without refinancing and without sacrifice to lifestyle, meaning you can live very well. You don't have to cut up your credit cards. You don't have to stay at home and not go anywhere and not do anything. You don't have to drive a 30-year-old car. You don't even have to eat beans and rice 7 days a week. You don't have to do any of that. You can live well as God intended and manage your debt and be done in an average of 7 to 9 years. There you go. All right. So let's get back into this. Oh my, because I'm excited to bring you the rest of this story. All right. We're not done with the story yet. Okay. So let me see. All right. So all of this was done so that the financial institutions can become liquid again. All right. The homeowners corporation, Homeowners Loan Corporation, having performed its task, was disbanded in 1936. In its place, the Federal National Mortgage Association, FNMA, all right, was put in its place, which would later be Fannie Mae, was invented as a government agency in 1938 for the purpose of abetting, watch this, listen to this now, for the purpose of abetting a secondary market in FHA mortgages. You know what? When I first read that, I looked up the word abetting. All right. ABETTING. You'd be surprised to see what the first. Let me do that again for you. Let me pull this up for you. Abetting. All right. All right. Abetting definition. Let me see what the first definition is. Encourage or assist someone to do something wrong, in particular, to commit a crime or other offense. That's not the only definition, but I just thought that was funny that was the first one to come up, and this is this is the word that they're using here to help us to understand what's going on. Okay, I just thought that was funny. All right, so so here's what's happening. All right, so this thing was put in place to abet of abetting a secondary market in FHA mortgages. In particular, FNMA or Fannie Mae issued bonds for purchasing mortgages at par so that investors in affluent communities could invest with confidence in mortgages in communities with little local capital. Buying at par meant banks had no exposure to interest rate risk when lending long-term and funding these loans by FNMA issued bonds. Listen, everything was being done for the banks. Everything was being done for the investors. Where's the education for the consumers? I'm still not seeing that. Are you? Are you seeing the education for consumers? All right. So the mortgage market changed little in 6 years following the invention of Fannie Mae. The depression of the late 30s and World War II were all times, I'm sorry, were all times when the housing market had relatively little construction and few transactions. In 1925, new home construction in the United States peaked at 937,000 new units. Now, when you read this part, this is where the GI Bill of Rights comes in after World War II. Okay. And building went crazy because of the GI Bill. Because now, when you understand the VA loan, are there any veterans out there? The VA loan is probably the best loan on the planet. You don't need a down payment. Okay. There's literally now probably no limit to the amount of home you're able to buy. And you get a really great break on even your credit score. Okay. There is no minimum credit score for VA loans. Now, your bank or financial institution may have what's called an overlay on that and says, we have a minimum score, even though the government does not. Okay, so if your bank has a minimum score for the VA loan, just choose another bank that doesn't have that, because the government says there is no minimum score. All right, and you can build up to a 4-unit, live in 1, and rent out 3, all from the VA. You can build a house from the ground up with no money down. And so with this, the housing market just took off with a lot of building going on. And when there was a lot of building going on, guess what else was happening? More mortgages. More mortgages meant more mortgage-backed securities, or the secondary market started to grow, because listen, there's only so much money in the banks. There's only so much money in the banks. So here's what they do. Banks don't make their money on mortgage interest. They make their money by selling the mortgages to someone else who will receive the mortgage interest. And banks get their money back. So they sell the mortgages at a premium. So they sell them at a markup. They mark up just like anything else. Here's a product. We have these mortgages. We're going to mark them up and we're going to sell them to you. All right. And then the banks get their money back in order to what? Sell new mortgages. That's how they make their money. All right. I hope this is interesting to you. It was very interesting to me. All right. So it is very important to understand what's going on here with these secondary mortgages, with the secondary system, and how we do mortgages here in the United States because of this. There are 2 things that these investors are afraid of: default. Guess what the other thing they're afraid of? Watch this. I'm going to bring this up for you. What else are they afraid? What else are they afraid of? Look at this. Mitigating the risk of what? Can you guys see that? Mitigating the risk of prepayments. Remember, when reading this article, they wanted assurance of 2 things: that we can get our money back and that we can get the scheduled interest payments. But we can't get the scheduled interest payments if they prepay, if they pay it off ahead of time. I can't get all my interest payments that I was looking for if you all prepay. Does that make sense now? Do you see why there's virtually no education on this thing, that we don't understand it? We have not been taught how it actually works. That this whole thing is cost trillions upon trillions of dollars, and we're working to put a roof over our families' heads, and we have no idea that we're paying more interest than we need to actually pay because there's no education on it. Because if there was education on it, let me ask you, if there was education on this, would these mortgage-backed securities be so popular? Okay, let me bring something else up here. I did a search, okay? Managing prepayment risk. And if you scroll down, you put anything about managing risk of prepayment on mortgage-backed securities, here's what you're going to look at. How do we mitigate prepayment risk? How do we hedge prepayment risk? What are the risks of prepayment? What are the two components of prepayment risk? And it keeps going. Here's another article: prepayment risk definition, mitigating prepayment risk. Don't forget about prepayment risk. Derivatives can help. The distribution and management of prepayment risk, and on and on and on and on. And when you see the math that they have to go through to predict prepayment of your mortgages, because if you prepay your mortgage and you're done in 7 years instead of 30 years, guess who doesn't make all the money they were trying to make? Does this make sense to you guys? Can I go? Listen, I sent you the article so you can read the whole thing for yourselves. Okay? All right. Listen, let's go back. Let's go back. Let me bring that back. Okay, here we go. Let's see here. With the anticipation of the end of World War II came the GI Bill of Rights, officially known as the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, including within the GI Bill was the invention of the Veterans Administration Mortgage Insurance Program, a program that allowed veterans returning home to obtain mortgages at very low down payments. Now there is no down payment. The program was intended both to reward veterans and to stimulate housing market construction. At about the same time, the Federal Housing Administration also sought to stimulate housing construction by substantially liberalizing its terms. So we had the FHA easing the terms, making it easy to borrow, and the VA loans, people coming back from war, they could easily get a mortgage. And guess who's buying up all these mortgages? Investors on the secondary market. In 1948, the maximum term of a mortgage rose to 30 years. 1948 was the first 30-year mortgage from an initial maximum of 20 years. It went from 20 to 30. In 1956, the FHA raised the maximum loan to value ratio to 95%. All you needed was 5% down. Look at that. 5% down gets you into a mortgage, which is then sold on the secondary market, and your PMI makes it so that investors will go ahead and purchase that mortgage so they can feel secure. But they really like the fact that you guys don't understand how these mortgages work, and you're going to pay loans like this. Right now, here we go. Where is my? There it is. Here's an 8% loan right now. 8%, ladies and gentlemen, 8% loan. And on this 8% loan, because we don't understand how it works, 9 out of 10 people you know, 9 out of 10 people you know will never pay off a mortgage. 9 out of 10 will never pay one off. So if they're looking for on this mortgage for a $420,000 mortgage at 8%, because the interest rates are 8% now, $689,451.60. That's how much interest they want. Did you know that most people will never pay this off? So they're going to get at least that much interest or more. Why do I say or more? Because part of what's going on with these loans is that every 5 to 7 years, what do we do in America with our mortgages every 5 to 7 years? Does anybody know? Can you put it in the chat for me? Every 5 to 7 years, what do we do with our mortgages? Demand 611 says refinance, 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 refinance. Did you realize that we refinance when the interest rates drop so that we can save money? Yeah, that's what we're thinking. But here's what's happening. Did you realize that the lower interest rate does very little with lowering your payment? You know what lowers your payment? Taking what you owe now after paying on this mortgage for 5 to 7 years. They take what you owe now and divide it by a new 360 payment loan, a new 30-year loan. So if you were in the loan for 7 years, just so that you can get a lower payment, now you get a new 30-year loan on top of it. When you add the 30 to the 7, does that make it a 37-year loan, ladies and gentlemen? I'm just asking. Does that make it a 37-year loan? And guess what's going to happen 5 to 7 years after that? We're going to do it again. We're going to refinance again because we're going to take cash out to do something else with it. Yeah. That's why we really don't have 30-year loans in America. We have a string of 5 to 7 year loans until we die. And guess who's happy with the fact that all of this money is being taken out of our families, taken out of the church, taken out of ministry, taken out of the work, taken away from people that really need to hear the gospel? That's what's happening. But that can stop today. That can stop right about now. Now that we know the truth. The truth sets you free. The truth makes you free, ladies and gentlemen. The truth. Understanding what's really going on. Can I show you something inspiring about an 8% mortgage? Can I show you right now? Okay, let me show you right now. Because of the way this thing is set up to make a lot of money in interest, it is important that you never know how it works. Okay, Siri, don't talk to me right now. Okay? Yes, I want to make Mr. Cooper cry. Here, look at listen, folks. Look at this. See the principal payment? I need you to write this down. Okay? The principal payment. Control the principal payment, you control this loan. Control the principal payment and you control the loan. I'm going to show you a couple of things. Okay? Because the payment is so small, the rate of change is very small. Let me bring my calculator up on the screen so you can see it. The difference between, see, this is your mortgage payment right here. Only the principal side. This side lowers how much you actually owe on the mortgage. And because of the formula that is being used, the amount that goes to principal is so small, that means you have to pay more times. So the investor on this gets the entire payment. He's looking, the investor on this is look to get the entire payment 360 times. Why? Because the rate of change is so small on the principal side. The rate of change is so small on the principal side. In fact, in this first part, we have on payment number two, $283.69 goes to principal. On the very first payment, we're going to subtract $281.81 equals $1.88. $1.88 difference. So that means $1.88 more to principal, $1.88 less to interest, which means I get to charge you again. All right? I get to charge you again. And again, because the payments are so small. Now let's find out why real estate investors are so afraid of prepayment. Are you ready? Okay. Are you ready? I didn't need at least 5 yeses in the chat to show you why real estate investors are so afraid of you prepaying because of all of these articles. Listen, all these articles on risk mitigation, on all of these articles on prepayment. Why do we want look at why don't we want the consumer to learn how to prepay? Look at, I mean, just page after page after page, prepayment rules. Oh my goodness. This is why. Let me show you why. Because this is what they do. The formula. Okay, I need to show you the formula. All right, let me show you the formula. Okay, mortgage formula. All right, amortization formula. Here it is. More than anything else, this controls the rate of change. And remember, I said the rate of change right now in the beginning is around $1.88, $1.90 change in the beginning. And in the first 7 years, the rate of change is the slowest in the mortgage. All right. The rate of change starts to pick up more and more as you get deeper into the mortgage. But if you're refinancing every 7 years, you get back to the beginning where the rate of change is the smallest. And they keep us there every 5 to 7 years. Okay. So the rate of change is so small. That's what this thing does. If I can get the rate of change small, that means to complete this loan product, they have to be in it 360 payments or 30 years. And the investor says, great, I get, because of the rate of change here, I'm getting the whole payment anyway. But because of the rate of change, all this does is tell me how many times I'm actually going to get that payment. That's all this does. Because I get the entire payment. I get the only thing that the investor doesn't get is your taxes and insurance. Everything else goes to the investor. $3,081.81 on this. They get the whole thing. But because of the math, because of the rate of change, this determines how many times they're able to get it. Watch what happens when we increase the rate of change. Are you ready? Are you ready to find out? Here it is. Let's say we make this first payment here. Look how much of that payment goes to interest. $2,800. So if it's $2,800, this is why real estate investors love this thing so much. They love it. Okay, $2,800 of your hard-earned money goes over here. When we take a look at the entire mortgage payment, we divide that by $3,081.81 equals 90.908 or 91% of your payment is interest. 9% of your payment pays down the loan. 9% of your payment pays down the loan. 91% of your payment here gets credited to the interest side, and only 9% of your payment gets credited to the principal side, changing the loan, and then they get to charge you one more time because so little, the rate of change is so small. So watch this. When I make my very first payment, let's say I make my first payment in January, my February principal payment would be the $283.69, wouldn't it? Is there any rule that says I have to wait till February to give the bank this $283.69? No, there's no rule against that. So in January, I make my regular mortgage payment. I give the bank an extra $283.69 because I have it. Do you know that all of that goes to principal? And now I'm paid down to line 2 on my amortization schedule. I just increased the rate of change. What I went from $1.88, okay, to 200 and to $284, $285, not $1.88, but 280, over $280. I listen, I chose to change the rate of change not by $1 and change, but by over $200, $280. And what happens when I do that? What happens when I do that? I'm no longer on this payment here. Okay, I'm already here. And then when the program, when the bank does their math, let me show you how they do their math. Okay, they're going to take the interest rate of 8% divided by 12. They're going to take this multiplier, 0.006, bunch of sixes and a 7 at the end, and now they're going to multiply this by this new number, 419,434.50. This is the new number because I increased the rate of change. Now, look at this. They're not going to multiply it by this because I don't owe this anymore. I gave them an extra $280 some. So now they have to multiply by the 419, 434.50. So let's do that. Let's multiply it by 419,434 and 50 cents. And my new interest cost is $2,796.23, which takes me, right there, $2,796.23, which takes me to here. This is my new payment. Boom, 285, 58, 27, 96, 23, and the $2,798.12 on line 2. The investor in the mortgage-backed securities is no longer going to get that 2798.12. Boom. I just reduced how much they're going to receive from me by over 27, almost $2,800. This is why they are so afraid that you'll get this education and learn how to prepay so that they don't get this money. Oh my goodness. Do you see what was happening here? It was when we read the history books, ladies and gentlemen, when we read the history books, we're going to see that the amortized mortgage changed America. The amortized mortgage took us from a country of renters and built the middle class so we can now become homeowners. No, we are home buyers. You're a homeowner when you pay off the mortgage. You're a home buyer as long as you're paying for that house. So it changed us from renters to home buyers. From renting the house, we went from renting the house to renting the money for the house for our entire lives. Look at these payments. Can we make that big again? Can we make that big again? Look at these interest payments. Look at this. 2,800, 2,700. Look at how long it stays as 2,700. That's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Then it drops down to the 2,600. Look at that, 2,600. I just need you to add this up. This is why I like using Brett Whistle, B-R-E-T. This is what I use for a training tool. Brett Whistle, B-R-E-T is his first name. His last name is Whistle, W-H-I-S-S-E-L. Oh, I was supposed to give you that link. I am so sorry. Let me give it over to you because you all want to play around with this. So hold on. Let me type it in. BRETWHISSEL.net. All right. Oh, in fact, let me do this. This is even better. This will take you here faster. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it here. Boom and paste. All right. That's why I love live TV. There it is. So I need you. You all can play around with this thing. This is not part of my business. This is what we use for education purposes. Okay. So now you can have it. All right. There you go. I just put it in the private chat and we want everybody else to have that. Okay. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You can play around with this too. All right. And you can use this video as a kind of a tutorial. All right. So now I need to show you something at the end of 1 year. This is why most people don't understand this. And most financial gurus or experts who are teaching us how to get out of debt don't understand it either, because we're not adding up all the principal and interest easily so people can see it. Out of sight, out of mind. Okay. At the end of 1 year on this loan, only $3,500, 3508.52 gets credited to the principal side. But look how much gets credited to the interest side. $33,473.20. That's just in the first year. In year two, after 24 payments, only $7,300 is credited to the principal side to pay down the loan. Look how much went to the interest side. $66,655.22. You see, out of sight, out of mind. If we're not looking at it, we don't feel bad about it. After 3 years, 4, $99,521.84 credited to the interest side of the ledger. Do you see why real estate people who invest in mortgage-backed securities are so afraid of you prepaying this mortgage? Let me tell you something. Some of you are fortunate enough right now. If you have this loan, some of you are fortunate enough right now. And even if you're not, it doesn't matter, because no matter how much you're making, you can, if you have a mortgage, you can do well. You can do better than giving them all your money. Okay. But I just want to show you one little thing. Some of you are fortunate enough. If you have this mortgage, you have $11,000 in the bank right now. If you were to prepay this mortgage by $11,423.32, give that to the bank on line 1 instead of over 36 months. Give it to them all at one time. Did you realize you'd be paid down to here in 1 month? And it would save $99,000 in interest you would not have to pay. I just need you to sit with that a minute. By prepaying $11,423.32, by prepaying this 11,423. Giving this to the bank on line 1, if you had it. Okay? If you had it. Remember, our mortgage started out at $420,000. Okay? That's where we started. And all of these principal payments for 36 months adds up to $11,423.32. Well, you can give this to the bank in 36 monthly installments. But every time you do, you got to pay them over $2,700 in interest every single month. And by the end of 36 months, you've given them $99,521.84. That's how much interest we would have given them if this was our mortgage. But if we already know that we're going to be giving the bank $11,423.32, if we subtract that, we could give it to them all at one time if we had it. I'm not saying this is what you should do. I'm just saying if you had it, it's just a hypothetical. So let's subtract 11,423 and 32 cents. It equals 408,576.68. That's exactly what we have here on line 36. So you can get there in 36 equal payments, or you can get there in one payment. And if you did, guess what? You skip all of these interest payments, and the bank and the investor does not get the $99,000 they were looking for from you over 3 years. They don't get that. You know what they get? I'll tell you what they get. This is what they get. They get this. They get the interest on line 1, the $2,800, okay? And then remember, if you prepay this, right? If you prepay this, then your next mortgage payment will be right here. Okay? So that they charged you on the 420,000. If you give them this ahead of time, then the next time they can charge you, because what? You're changing the rate of change. You're increasing the rate of change. The next time they get to charge you is on this number right here. I'm sorry. So we pay down to here. Boom. All right, yeah. The next time they get to charge you is right here. $408,000. So we're going to take this. Remember how we got there. We got our 8% interest. We divided it by 12. We got this number, and now we're going to multiply it by the 408,000. Okay? Multiply it by 408,218.71 equals 2,721.458, which means we have to round up the 5. So it's 46. 2,721.46. That is 2,721.46. 721.46 right here. Boom. This is the what? Look at there. That's how much we pay in interest right there. We pay that in interest plus the $2,800 on line 1. Plus, oops, I hit minus. I want to hit plus 2,800. Come on, Don. I'm getting tired. 2,800. All right, equals 5,521. Okay? If you prepay what I just told you, you're going to pay about $5,500 in interest to get down to here. If you give them this money all up front. $5,000 in interest, $5,500 in interest to get to here, not 99,521. Do you see why? Now, we are so miseducated on this that the real estate investors, the people who invest in mortgage-backed securities, they are so afraid that you will find this out, that the education on how a mortgage or other loans actually works is not even taught to accountants, financial planners, real estate agents, mortgage professionals, people who sell mortgages. What you learn tonight is not taught to the financial community. And anybody who's listening to me that's in those professions, you know that to be true. So I want everybody here now to know this. The people who work in these institutions are doing the very best they know how, because they can only give us what they have been taught. The people who own the institutions know what I've taught you tonight. The people who work in the institutions do not know, because the people who own the institutions do not teach their employees what I taught you tonight. And where did I get it? It's because, to tell you the truth, because I have Asperger's. When I look at an amortization schedule, I see the pictures and the patterns. I'm not really that good at math. I never have been. All right. When I see this, it just makes more sense to do it the other way, to do it as I have explained it to you. This is a gift that God gave me, and I'm giving it to you. This is not being taught anywhere else. So how else could I have gotten it unless it was a gift? So that's what this is all about. This is why I'm so passionate about it. I need your help to get the information out there as well. So let's do that. Let's tell other people about it. Watch these videos. Okay. So next week, you don't want to miss next week. All right. You don't want to miss next week. Go to my notes. Let me go to my notes for next week. Okay. Next week, we're going to learn about how, not only that we learned this week about the education behind the whole thing, how we've been miseducated. Let's get educated correctly about how we should view and understand our money from the Bible and from the spirit of prophecy. Listen, we can't argue with that, can we? How should we have been taught about it? Listen, we know what to do with the 10%. We know what to do with the 10%. Let's spend some time in God's word next week, and let's find out how we should be managing the 90%. What do you say? What do you say, everybody? What do you say to that? Norma Jean Gibson, thank you for listening. All right. Thank you for listening. My goodness. All right. We've been going for an hour and 18 minutes. So are there any questions? Are there any questions? Trish says amen. All right. Let me see here. Let me see here. Trish says, they may have to. Okay. All right. David Haynes says boom. Haynes says boom. Refine. Okay. If let's see. I'm looking for questions. Oh, here we go. How can you create or can you request an amortization table from your lender? All right. Listen. Don't even bother requesting it. Just make one for yourself. Go to. I put the link in the chat. brettwhistle.net. This is what I use, and you can make your own. Because anytime you prepay, You just destroyed the old amortization schedule anyway, and you need a new one. So you can make one up for yourself. Now, in my program, since the average family has 13 different debts, um, our program keeps track of all of your amortization schedules and gets you out of debt on everything in 7 to 9 years. Okay. And one week we may even put that up and show how, you know, the technology actually works. But for now, you can make your own just so that you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. You need to see it for yourself and understand it for yourself so you can start teaching it to your kids. Do you know this seventh and eighth graders can pick up on this? Maybe even sixth graders can pick up on this very easily. We need to be teaching this to our children. All right. Are there any other questions? Okay, this is question time. This is question time. Okay. Let me see here. Here's because how much will making one extra payment annually lower for okay, here's what I'm doing. Okay. I don't look for, here's what you don't look for. And this is how it's being taught right now. Don't look for an ABC 1, 2, 3, making one extra payment a year or rounding up your payments. This is what we're being taught now. In 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about all the techniques that are being taught to us that don't work well. Okay, they work some, but they don't work well. And we're going to be going over that. Making one extra payment a year, I wouldn't want to do that. And here's why. Okay, because that's not even a part of our system. So if I make an extra payment a year, no matter where it is or how much it is, guess what happens? Just say I make an extra payment for a year. All right. I make this payment here. All right. And that means, but if I make this payment, okay, I skip all of these interest payments here. But next year, I'm going to pay this one and this interest payment and this interest payment and this interest payment because I'm only doing one a year. Okay. I pay all of these, all of these, all of these, all of these. And then whatever I'm going to pay, I don't start until this year and this year. Do you see that the interest payments here are larger than the ones here? If I make a payment every year, then I'm paying the most expensive interest payments while I'm waiting the whole year to eliminate some more interest. So why wouldn't it be better to figure out what is the right time and the right amount of money strategically throughout the year to make prepayments and save the most interest possible? You see, the most expensive interest payments are now. Why would I ever wait a year to start attacking the debt when the most expensive interest payments are now? Does that make sense? So with our program, we let you know, that's like financial GPS. You can know the month, the day, and the year to make each payment. Boom, 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 boom. Each one. It's going to be depending on the family or the church or the business, making a payment every 2 to 4 months on average instead of once a year. Every 2 to 4 months on average, we make what's called a prepayment to save interest by increasing the rate of change. Okay, does that make sense? All right, what else we got? What other questions do we have? Can we highlight it and put it on the screen? Can this apply to a car payment? Yes, yes, all of the debt. Yeah, anything that carries interest. This works on a car payment as well. Yep. So you may have a car payment. You got like credit cards. You may even have a student loan and a mortgage. You may have all of that. Or you may have none of that and just the car payment. Yes, you can save interest on your car payment by increasing the rate of change. But here's the thing, keep this in mind. There is a point at which you can pay too much at the wrong time. Yeah, it's called violating the law of diminished return. What you want is to be able to save the maximum, the maximum amount of interest per dollar applied. Okay. Just playing around with this, you'll be able to see if I prepay this, I can save a ton of interest, right? All right, I can save a ton of interest. I can actually take the interest saved and divide it by what I prepay, and I can figure out how much interest I'm saving per dollar. All right. But if you keep adding up, adding money and saying, no, I want to prepay this instead, or I want to prepay this instead, or I want to prepay this instead. Pretty soon, when you're looking at what you prepay and the interest you save, pretty soon the amount of interest you can save per dollar starts to go back the other way. So you want to be careful not to pay too much at the wrong time. All right. What's in my let's see. What other question do I have? All right. Does this work outside the US? You both certainly. That's why it's called Pill Method International. Pill Method International. We are in right now 9 countries total. 9 countries total. So Andre, what question? What country are you interested in? Okay, because it's very easy to see if our program will work in a certain country. All right, and I'll give you the formula. Are you ready? Here it is. Take a $200,000 mortgage. Go to the bank website in any country. Go to a bank website and find their mortgage calculator. Put in $200,000. Put in 6%. Okay, and 360 months or 30 years. And when you calculate it, if the payment comes out 1199.10, like this, 1199.10, 1199.10, if you get that answer, my program works in that country. Oh yeah, we got plenty of clients in Canada. Oh, we got thousands of clients in Canada. Yes, definitely. Oh, and in Canada, did you know Canada has a prepayment penalties um, on their mortgages? We don't have that here. But even if you have a prepayment penalty, you don't even have to worry about this either, because you're going to save so much interest. The penalty for prepaying, the penalty is so small compared to how much interest you actually save. They're hoping you never do the math. And because you don't do the math, a lot of people in Canada don't prepay because they don't know how much interest they're saving. If I don't know how much interest I'm saving, all I look at is the penalty. Okay. And then I react to the penalty. So just change the word penalty to cost. Prepayment cost instead of prepayment penalty. And then you'll ask the right questions. How much does it cost to prepay? Then you find out. Now your banker won't be able to tell you how much interest you save. Call me. And we'll tell you how much interest you save. And then we can compare the interest savings with the prepayment cost. And you'll see, because I had an opportunity to work with a client once in Canada. We saved them $100,000 in interest. And when we saved them $100,000 in interest, then we went on their website and did the math on how much it would cost them in prepayment penalties. Guess what it was? $1,200. $1,200 penalty to save $100,000 in interest. I would pay that every day, wouldn't you? Every day, every day. You're welcome, Andre. Any other questions? David Haynes, will this method still work if I have 6 years left on a 15-year loan? Oh, that is a very good question. So here's what you want to do. you have to find out what your goal is. All right, what your goal is. If your goal is to save a lot of interest, then there may not be a lot of interest left. So what you'll find out is we could do a savings and earnings report. The savings and earnings report is free. Okay, go to ice10k.com, click on the button that says get a savings and earnings report, fill it out, and then you'll be able to see two things: the month, day, and year you'll be debt free, and how much interest you could save. And then you'll know if it's worth it or not. And listen, anybody that is doing anything like this and answering any questions about finances, their first answer should be, I don't know. Let's do the math. Let's do the math and find out. That should always be their answer. Let's do the math and find out which is going to be better. Okay, which is going to be good. Is this going to be a good thing to do? I don't know. Let's do the math. Let's find out. Okay, I love this. Anybody else? Do I have another question? I've answered all the. Oh, here's one. Oh, Courtney, thank you. Did you sign up to get your savings report today? I signed up for the program today. That means you signed up to get the report, I guess. Is that what you mean, Courtney? All right. All right. We'll look for it. I will look for your name. Okay. I will look for your name. All right. And Andre says, would this concept be any help if I'm looking to get into real estate investing? Oh, most definitely. You can increase the amount of money, your profitability, by borrowing your money at a discount. Okay. Can I show you something, Andre? Can I show you something right quick? Even if it's like a $200,000 mortgage here, $200,000 mortgage at 6%, payment is $11.99.10. We can prepay $200.10 and save $9.99. Okay. Let me show you something interesting about that. Now, when you invest money, you want to know what your ROI is. So when we're investing in real estate, you have an idea of how much of a return you want on your money. So set all of that up, do everything right, learn real estate investing from the ground up so that you're buying it right and you're selling it right and you're renting it right and you're rehabbing it right. Okay. Here's what you want to know. How much does it cost? How much does the real estate cost? How much does it cost to fix up? Okay. What is it worth when I'm done? And when you're done fixing it, what is it worth? And then how much income can it generate? All right. If you can do those four things and everything works out right, then you're good. But if you use bank financing, if you borrow the money, here's one thing you need to consider. Along with those other things, all those other things need to be in place. But watch this. We're going to add this to it. This is what most real estate investors miss, is this part right here. If I take $200 and prepay this mortgage, I save $9.99 in interest right here. Okay. So what is the return on investment? Either what I make or what I save is an increase. Okay. So I'm saving $9.99 and I'm investing. So I got to divide it by, okay, $200.10. Okay. And then when you get that number, you multiply it by 100. And that's how you figure ROI. You can just say, how do I figure? You can put that, ask Siri or put it into Google and say, how do I figure ROI? And this is what's going to come back to you. What did you make? What did you invest to make it? All right. Divide what you made by what you invested, and then multiply that by 100. Okay. So we're going to, that equals this. And then we multiply it by 100 equals 499.25%. That's a 499% return on your money. You invest $200 here, you save $999 here. That's a 499% return on your money. And brother, I don't care what you're doing, you're going to be hard pressed to get a 499% return on your money investing in anything else. Take your real estate investment and add this to it, and you'll be able to make money on the investment side and make money on borrowing the money side as well. Okay, how do you like that? 499% return on your money. All right, do I have any other questions? How does escrow figure into the payment schedule? Okay. Okay. Number one, you may not have to pay escrow. All right. So this is just the principal and interest payment. And so we've got 1199.10, and the escrow payment covers the taxes and the insurance, So, and the PMI if you're paying PMI. And so that adds into this. But that does not affect your mortgage payment at all. That money goes into a separate account and it's saved up, and it pays your mortgage insurance, pays your taxes, pays your insurance, but it does nothing to help you with your mortgage at all. Okay. And some mortgages will let you opt out of escrow. And if you opt out of escrow, then what could you do? Okay. You could do the same math yourself and then put that in a savings account for yourself, because that's all the bank is doing, is setting it in your escrow money, is putting it in a savings account for you that pays you no interest. Yeah, they're doing you a favor by taking your money, putting it in a savings account, which pays you no interest, but benefits the bank greatly. And then they take money out of that savings account to pay your mortgage insurance, to pay your taxes, and to pay your homeowner's insurance. There you go. Or you can set up an account for yourself and you make the interest. I hope that answers your question. Okay. How does escrow figure into the payment? Do I have another question in the few minutes I have here? Been here an hour and 37 minutes. Okay. Well, folks, listen. We have something here. What are the qualifications for a VA loan? Now, here's what I would do. Definitely I am not a loan officer. Number one, not a loan officer. I know some aspects of the VA loan. I don't know everything I need to know about it, but here are some. You can purchase up to a 4 or 5 unit with a VA loan. And if it's a 5 unit, then 1 unit could be commercial and the other 4 could be residential. All right. But you have to live in one of the units for at least a year. Okay. You have to live there. You can't just build it. So you can purchase a 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 if it's all residential, or 1 to 5 if 4 are residential and 1 is commercial. You can build it or you can buy it with relatively no money down, and there is no minimum credit score. Okay? So if you have a VA loan, if you have the VA allotment, you would definitely want that VA loan. All right? So contact your realtor, contact your loan your loan provider, and also contact the pill method, so we can all work together, so you can make sure that whatever you're doing, whatever decision you're making, you're putting yourself in the best financial position possible to pay back the loan at the lowest interest cost, not interest rate, but the lowest interest cost possible. We can help you with that by going to ice10k.com and filling out your savings and earnings report. Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Andre comes back with another question. How could I leverage the value of a home which has recently been paid off? All right. Are you living in the home, Andre? If you're living in the home, then one good way is to get a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. A home equity line of credit. That's a good way of doing it. And it doesn't cost very much to set it up. And you only pay interest on the amount of money that you're actually using. Okay. But here's what I never, ever want to do. Here's what you don't want to do. Don't borrow money to purchase stuff that doesn't make money. Don't do it. If it's not making money, don't borrow money. All right. For the most part, to get it out of your house. Don't take your equity to buy something that doesn't make money, that can't return it to you. Okay. Now, but I will tell you, I don't pay cash for houses or cars. I borrow money for those. All right. But I know how to borrow it at a discount. So for me, it looks like it's the savings. I treat it as a benefit. The savings I treat as a benefit. Benjamin Franklin said, "A penny saved is a penny earned." Not really. A penny saved is like 2 pennies earned, because the money you didn't spend on interest, you can also invest somewhere else. Does that make sense? Okay. That's how we start to develop generational wealth. That is how we start putting away money for our children's children, is take that money we didn't spend in interest and invest it in something safe and smart so that we can provide wealth for our children's children. Okay, there you go. All right, any other questions? Okay, so 2 hours is the limit. All right, we've been here an hour 42 minutes, but 2 hours is the absolute outside limit. Okay, all right. Please address car loans. Okay, let me put a car loan in here. Let me show you something. All right, we've got, let's say, 30,000 for a car loan. Okay, 30,000. Got to take one of those zeros out. Sorry. 30,000 for a car loan. We're going to leave it at 6%. Now I want to show you something about this car loan. Uh-oh. Let me take the payment out. Hold on. Got to get rid of this. Got to take the payment out. Here's a payment on 30,000 at 6%, for let me see here. Let's put it in for 72 months. How's that? 72 months? How's that? We'll do that. 72 months. There it is. Payment is $497.19. How's that? Okay. $497.19. But I need to show you something that most people aren't really focusing in on. If I make every payment on this car, I'm only going to pay $5,797.68 in interest. If I pay it off tomorrow, I save $5,797.68. If you have a mortgage and a car payment, be careful. Because the reason why you pay off a loan is not to pay it off. The reason why you pay off a loan is to save interest. And if all the interest I could save on this loan is $5,797, be careful about paying this loan off when you have another one, when you have a mortgage that could be $300,000, okay? at 6%. We'll leave it at that, 360 payments. Okay, take that out. There you go. All right. So I got $300,000 at 360 payments. And look at my interest cost here. Okay. 1,500, 1,400. So be careful about which loans you choose to pay off, because if I pay this loan off all today, I save $5,797.68. If I put 30 grand on this $300,000 mortgage, look what it does. $30,000 knocks out 82 payments and saves $117,000 in interest. So be careful. Work with somebody who's an expert like us, so you put the right amount of money in the right place, so you're not putting a lot of money on a loan that's saving you just a little bit of interest, especially if you have some loans to choose from. Which loans should we attack? Okay, the one that's costing us the most money. All right, but I will show you something about this car loan here. Okay, let me I'm going to put in $400 for a payment. I want to show you something interesting though. Okay, we're going to take this out, take the principal out. Here is a $400 payment, and that would mean that this car is $24,135.81, but I have a payment of $400 a month. Here's something that you could do only if your bank or credit union will accept weekly payments. All right. If you didn't know anything about the pill method, if you don't want to do a savings and earnings report, you don't have to, but you could take this $400 and divide it by 4. Ask your credit union or your bank or whoever has your note, can I make weekly payments? If they say yes, you can take this $400, divide it by 4, and make a payment of $100 a week. And by doing that, you bring down this principal balance a little bit every week, which means it makes it impossible for them to charge you a whole month's worth of interest the way they wanted to. So more of your $400 is credited to principal, and less of your $400 is credited to interest. So you can actually get ahead on your car loan by making the minimum payment, but dividing it by 4 and paying it weekly. Now, that doesn't work on mortgages, so don't ask. And will only work with whoever's your note holder on the car if they accept weekly payments. Not every credit union or bank or finance company will accept weekly payments. Their software is not set up for it. But if they do, you can save quite a bit of money and pay off the car early with just the minimum payment. Okay, there you go. All right. I hope that helps with some car payments. But listen, folks, thank you so very much. We're going to wrap this up because I'm not seeing any other. It says, what is the name of your program? I'm sorry. The name of my program is the Pill Method. Let's put that in. Let's go ahead and put that in the chat. Okay. The Pill Method. Let me go ahead and put that in the chat. All right, hold on for a second. Okay. And my business card is ice10k.com. That's already in the chat, ice10k.com. But here is my website. That's my website, pillmethod.com. All right. Pill is always capitalized. Pill stands for prepayment of principal, isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. All right. Pillmethod.com. But everything is on our digital business card, ice10k.com. That's in the chat as well. All right. And you can learn more about my book let me put that on the screen. All right. We're going to put it ice10k.com. on the screen. There we go. And we're going to go over three things before we go. Here's the button that says buy the book. Can we put that on the screen? There we go. Buy the book. All right. And it's on Amazon, the pill method. It was number 2 on Amazon yesterday. Okay. And so let's see. Today it's number 28. Dropped down to number 28, but it was number 2 in Seventh-day Adventist Christianity. But today it dropped down to number 28. There it is, number 28. But yesterday was number 2. If it had gone to number 1, it would have been the 7th time it went to number 1. Okay. So if you want, you can help the book go to number 1. All right. So there's the book also. Okay. So we can, let me see here. All right. Get the savings and earnings report. Let's go back. All right. And ice10k.com. You get a savings and earnings report here. All right. Just click on that button and this one comes up. Just follow the directions and then you can get the savings and earnings report. And the last thing, some of you may want to help us on a regular basis. So here's something else you could do. Become an affiliate. All right. Click that, become an affiliate, fill this out, and you can share the information by sharing our YouTube channel. Now, tomorrow morning, I'm on my YouTube channel, Pill Method. Let me bring that up. Okay. Now, if you can't make it, just watch the replay. All right. So here is our YouTube channel right here. Okay. And tomorrow morning, guess what we're going to go over? Mortgage interest rates just hit 8%. You can still win. I'm going to do a deep dive on this tomorrow. So let's see if you can get there for that as well. And if not, if you can't, I'm on at 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. But if you can't make it, that's okay. We're on Clubhouse, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Okay. Just search for Pill Method and it'll come up. And you can join us, tomorrow because interest rates just hit 8%. You can still win. We're going to do a deep dive into a couple of things here that we didn't get a chance to go over tonight. So you're going to learn a little bit more about these interest rates tomorrow and why I like the higher interest rates instead of the lower ones. I really do. If you can afford the payment, I love the higher interest rates, and I'll get into that more tomorrow. Okay, let me see here. Let me go back to the comments. I think that's it, right? I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you so very much. All right. She says, Richard Baptiste says, she's 8%. I got to hear this. Trish says, thank you very much for your wisdom and for your time. Listen, everybody, continue to pray for me because I learn more about this every single week. And sometimes daily, I learn more. So if you will pray for me, I'll pray for you that we can still continue to get all this information to share because no one else on anywhere. Did you realize my book is the only book out of 33 million titles on Amazon that talks about this subject? Just the one book. All right. This subject, the way we're talking about it now, the people are only getting it one place when I do a presentation. Why? Because God gave it to me. I didn't get it from anybody else. So pray for me that we continue to get more information that we can share with everybody. How about that? Okay. So we're going to end everything with prayer tonight. All right. So if I don't see any more questions, I guess that's it. Good night, everyone. Let's have a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for the energy that you provided. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for everybody who attended. Please bless every single home that was represented tonight that was on the broadcast, whether they said something or not. Okay. Bless every home financially, physically, and in every way they stand in need of. Would you please, Father, give them exactly what they need? And Father, we're going to be studying more and more about how you want us to think towards ourselves, to believe how you think about us, and to benefit from all the goodness that you have for us. Father, you have a work for us to do. And we have been made special by you. All of us have a special talent. All of us have something that we can give to the work. All of us have a way to serve. Father, I pray that you will help us to find that way so that you can guide our steps, give us instruction, and tune our ear to your still small voice. I thank you for all that you've done, all that you're doing, and all that you will do for your people. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, everybody. See you next week.